So my dad screamed, "You're just a burden. You cost us everything and give nothing back."
Charming, right?
Like being screamed at by a tax return. Then he had the audacity to say I should move out if I'm such a disappointment. So, like any self-respecting disappointment with a decent credit score, I packed that night and left. No big dramatic exit. No shouting match. Just a quick silent rage clean of my toothbrush, and I was gone. 3 weeks later, my mom rang in a full-blown panic spiral. Why is the internet down? Why is the phone not working? And I can't get into any of my accounts. I just said, thought I was a burden who gave nothing back. And then I hung up. Honestly, I think I heard the family group chat explode from 3 miles away. Anyway, holy hell, Reddit. I never thought I'd be that person writing one of these, but after 3 years of friends going, "You need to put this online," and me going, "No, because it's insane," here we are.
Buckle up, babes.
It's long, petty, and ends with the kind of revenge that makes you want to pour yourself a cuppa and toast to chaos. Let's rewind. I'm 31, female, and once upon a naive time, thought family meant something. You know, loyalty, support, maybe not being emotionally disemboweled at Sunday lunch. Turns out what it actually meant was I got to bankroll everyone's mediocre lifestyle while being treated like the spare wheel in a clown car. This is the story of how I went from cash cow to family pariah, and why the sweet, sweet silence after turning off their broadband still makes me smile in my sleep. Let me introduce you to the emotionally constipated circus I call family. First up, my older brother, Bradley now. Age 34, spiritual age 17. He peaked in year 11 playing rugby for the school team and has spent every moment since trying to recreate the magic by shouting touchdown during family BBQs. Yes, I know that's American. No, he doesn't. Bradley works part-time in a sports shop where he mostly rearranges protein bars and tells teenagers about the time he almost got scouted by a championship team, which, according to my mum, was really just a bloke from Wigan who once said, "You've got good legs for a lad." He still wears his old-school Letterman jacket, which now fits like a cling film wrap on a ham. But sure, Brad, you could have gone pro if life hadn't cruelly intervened by requiring effort and basic competence. Then we've got my darling baby sister, Sophie, 26, human ring light, and walking Instagram filter. She calls herself a luxury brand ambassador, which means she buys knockoff jewelry off some dodgy website and resells it on Depop while pretending it's vintage Dior. She's got 847 followers and the self-esteem of a Kardashian on launch day. Sophie lives rent-free in the basement. She once told me working a 9-to-5 would kill her creative spirit, which is posh for, I wake up at noon and take aesthetic photos of my coffee until I feel something. She spends more time curating her online vibe than actually earning money, and once blew 200 pounds on a fake Chanel clutch just so she could post a reel about the importance of investing in yourself. She ate toast for 10 days straight after that. Inspirational. Now, my parents. Mum's a part-time estate agent who hasn't sold a house since pre-pandemic, but still drives round in a leased BMW and insists on saying things like, "It's all about branding, darling." Her latest listing? A studio flat in Slough with black mold and a vibrant atmosphere. Dad's a middle manager in insurance, or as he calls it, financial strategy leadership. He spends half his life reading investment blogs and the other half begging me for seed money for whatever pyramid scheme he's pretending is a passive income opportunity. He once tried to convince me to invest in a crypto coin named after a cartoon dog. I wish I was joking. And then there's me. The family freak who liked school, saved money, and didn't ruin their life on aesthetic coffee and bad decisions. At 16, while Sophie was busy live-streaming her eyeliner routine and Bradley was failing PE theory, I was out mowing lawns. Started my own landscaping gig with nothing but a battered old van and a borrowed strimmer. Didn't party. Didn't travel. Didn't spend 80 pounds on contour kits. Just worked. Saved. Built. By the time I left school, I had a proper client base. By 25, I had 3 teams working under me. By 30, I was the top landscaping designer for every posh estate agent west of London. Now, We handle everything from chipping sod for council parks to designing multi-million-pound garden spaces for footballers' wives. Last year, the company turned over £800,000. My personal take-home was more than my entire family combined, and I was still being called lazy because I didn't want to pay for Sophie's iPhone upgrade.
So yeah,
I was the backbone of this whole sorry little operation. Paying the bills, covering the car insurance, even buying the bloody loo roll when the Tesco delivery mysteriously glitched. And they still treated me like I was the family burden. Until, of course, I left. And suddenly, no Wi-Fi, no phone plan, no Netflix, no backup bank transfers when Sophie maxed out her card on fake Gucci. And that's when things really started to unravel.
right.
So, cue my best mate Lucas. And when I say best mate, I mean the only person who's seen me cry into a bowl of cheesy chips at 3 a.m. and still answers my calls when my mom rings again to ask why Netflix isn't working. Lucas is the reason I didn't end up smothering my family with a velvet cushion and blaming it on a gas leak. He's clever, painfully clever, the sort of man who could draft a cease and desist in one hand and a sarcastic meme in the other. He's a contract lawyer who deals in property disputes and business bollocks and basically lives off caffeine and contempt. We've been inseparable since secondary school, bonded over our shared love of sarcasm and deep-seated parental trauma. He saw right through my family from day. One day, while we were laying out sandstone slabs for his new patio, because yes, I will redo your backyard and also emotionally unload on you at the same time. It's called multitasking. He just goes, "When was the last time any of them asked how you're doing?" And I just stood there like a Tesco meal deal in the rain. Because I genuinely couldn't remember. Not once. Not even a "you alright, love?" while I was wiring them a small fortune for their 7th emergency this year. Lucas was my voice of reason. My little shoulder devil with a law degree. Every time I got that gnawing guilt in my gut, you know, the one that whispers but they're family, he'd come in swinging with, "Don't you dare go soft on those leeches. They've had more second chances than Boris Johnson's public image." And thus, the plan began.
See, it started small.
Innocent even. A cheeky favor here, a one-off there. Just a bit of help from their human ATM. Bradley, still pretending he's the next David Beckham, even though he can't run for a bus without needing an inhaler, rang me up one night with his usual fake casual tone. "Hey sis, you think you could spot me this month's truck payment? Had a bit of a cash hiccup." Translation: he'd blown $2,000 at the casino on dodgy cocktails and even dodgier football bets with his equally unemployed mates. But sure, blame it on unexpected expenses. Then Sophie called, sorry, voice noted me, because text is far too working class for her now. "Babe, I'm scaling my brand and I need a bit of capital for stock. It's gonna be huge, like for both of us, you know? Think collab vibes." What she meant was, she wanted to bulk buy plastic friendship bracelets off AliExpress and flog them as boho energy jewelry to her 14 TikTok followers. But okay, Dragon's Den. Dad, meanwhile, started his own campaign called, "Let's emotionally blackmail our daughter into paying for everything." First it was the roof, apparently on the brink of collapse, which magically recovered the second I sent money. Then it was the boiler. Then a full kitchen renovation because Mum saw some middle-class hellscape on Pinterest and suddenly decided their current kitchen was embarrassing. Mind you, this is the same woman who thinks coriander is exotic. And every time it was the same script. "You should be grateful. We gave you everything growing up."
Right.
Everything meaning subtle emotional neglect, wildly inconsistent parenting, and missing my 18th birthday because Bradley was too hungover to drive. Cheers for that. But it didn't stop there. Oh no. Soon I was paying for Bradley's car insurance, which he needed so he could drive to the gym he never goes to. Sophie's car payments for the Mini Cooper she only uses for Instagram stories outside Costa.
Dad's boat loan.
Yes, he bought a bloody boat. We don't even live near water. Mum's credit card bills, which were mostly charges from Holistic Soul Spa and MS Home. Nothing says spiritual healing like scatter cushions and overpriced candles. And the best part? They acted like it was normal. Like I was some kind of government grant they forgot to thank. There was no please. No thank you. Just transfer 1,500 pounds by Friday. Can you cover this bill real quick? We need help with rent this month. Family sticks together, right? Oh yeah, family. That magical word they only remembered when I had something they wanted. Usually cash. Sometimes my time. Never, and I mean never, my feelings. By this point, I was working 60-hour weeks, running a business, managing staff, keeping clients happy, and somehow also acting as the financial backbone for four emotionally constipated adults with no gratitude and zero self-awareness. And I wish I could say it reached a breaking point, some dramatic epiphany where I screamed no more and dropped the phone in slow-mo. But it didn't. It was death by 1,000 direct debits. Little requests turning into full-blown demands. Me sitting in bed at 1 a.m. calculating if I could afford to buy Sophie's influencer starter kit and keep my company afloat. And all the while, they genuinely believed I owed them this life. Like my success was communal property. Like my bank account was a family heirloom. And Lucas? Lucas just sat there, watching it all, sipping his tea like a smug little crow. Let them feel the silence, he said. They don't miss you. They miss the Wi-Fi. And that, my loves, is when we started planning my exit. So Lucas, bless him, the patron saint of blunt truths and backup plans, had been warning me for years. You're enabling them, love. They're never going to respect you as long as you keep flinging direct debits, like confetti. And me, like a muppet with a martyr complex, I kept nodding along while secretly thinking, no, it's fine, Lucas. I'm just being a good daughter. A good sister. The human equivalent of overdraft protection. It's not enabling if you call it love. Right? Spoiler alert. It absolutely is. See, I had this tragic little fantasy in my head that if I just helped them out one more time, maybe they'd finally stop treating me like the weird cousin who brings hummus to a barbecue and start seeing me as someone worthy of, I dunno, basic respect?
Anyway,
the actual breakdown began, as all great British meltdowns do, at Christmas. Because nothing says season of joy like inviting your emotionally constipated relatives into your pristine, over-mortgaged home and watching them trample your self-worth in high heels and discount aftershave. I just bought a new place. Not to flex, but it was gorgeous. 4-bed detached, all modern fittings, a kitchen that looked like it was designed by a mildly depressed Scandinavian, and a basement so nice even the spiders were middle class. So I thought, this year I'll host. Show them how far I've come. Maybe, just maybe, they'll stop acting like I won the lottery and realize I worked my arse off for this.
Ha, cute.
I spent $6,000. Let me say that again for the people in the passive-aggressive WhatsApp group chat. 6,000
pounds.
Hired caterers. Got a private chef. The house looked like the bloody cover of Ideal Home magazine. The food had more courses than I had childhood hugs. And what did I get in return? They showed up late. Of course they did. Can't be on time for your own exploitation. Bradley, my brother and full-time man-child, brought his new girlfriend, Jessica, a 22-year-old with lip filler, zero boundaries, and the emotional range of a teaspoon. She spent the night doing full-blown Instagram shoots in my living room. So, like, are you rich? Or just, like, comfy middle class? She asked this while taking a duck-lipped selfie next to my Christmas tree. I'd have pushed her into it if the baubles weren't hand-blown glass from a local artisan who definitely overcharged me out of spite. Sophie, my sister and part-time influencer, rocked up with her flavor of the month, a guy in a beanie who looked like he smelt of roll-ups and rejection. He spent dinner trying to convince me to invest in his grime fusion project. It's like Arctic Monkeys, but with vibes, he said, while eyeing up my Bose speakers like they owed him money. Sophie, meanwhile, kept name-dropping brands she was partnered with, which, for her, means uploading filtered selfies holding free jewelry no one actually asked for. And then came the piece de resistance. Halfway through the main course, prime rib, lovingly plated by someone I paid actual money to be there, Bradley stands up, glass raised, and launches into this Tesco value toast. I just want to say, family is everything, yeah? We stick together. Through thick and thin. That's what really matters tonight. Not the fancy house, not the expensive food. Just us being together. And I swear to God, if I hadn't been raised on a foundation of internalized rage and over-apologizing, I'd have launched the gravy boat straight at his forehead. Not one word, not one single syllable about the fact that I paid for everything. Not a whisper of thanks for the $6,000 dinner, or the fact they were currently inhaling 5 courses I couldn't pronounce. Just some Boots Christmas ad nonsense about togetherness, while they all hoovered up my truffle mash like feral pigs in Zara dresses. Lucas, God love him, was the only non-family member there. Sat next to me like a Victorian ghost, sipping his wine with a look of existential despair. When everyone finally buggered off, after nicking my posh wine and leaving lipstick prints on every glass I own, Lucas turned to me and said, "That was 4 hours of them treating you like their personal events manager. When are you gonna clock on?" And I just stood there in my silent house, half-eaten Yule log on the table, decorations blinking like a nervous breakdown in LED form, and thought, bloody hell,
He's right.
that night, something snapped. Quietly. Not dramatically. No wineglass smashing or get out of my house theatrics. Just a slow, creeping shift in my brain. Like a fog finally clearing. I'd spent years trying to earn love from people who didn't even know how to spell gratitude.
They didn't love me.
They loved the version of me that came with a contactless card and no boundaries. And once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it.
So yeah,
That Christmas, I didn't get closure. But I did get clarity. And honestly, that was worth more than the bloody truffle mash. Right, so it all blew up on a Tuesday. Because of course it did. Tuesdays have that quietly soul-destroying energy. The weekday equivalent of cold beans on toast. It was March, about 9 p.m. I'd just finished a site visit for a massive commercial project, shopping center job, 6 months of work, roughly 160,000 pounds in the pipeline, which, coincidentally, is more than Bradley's made since 2011. I was feeling good.
genuinely.
Was thinking I'd grab a cheeky chippy, whack on a bit of telly, maybe tackle the mountain of invoices on my kitchen table if I was feeling particularly masochistic. And then, phone rings. Dad. Now, to clarify, Dad doesn't call unless someone's dead, dying, or desperately in need of cash. And based on our family's track record, odds were it was cash. I answer. "We need to have a serious conversation," he says, like he's about to fire me from a job I never applied for. Already I'm thinking, right? Here we go. Buckle in, babes. This attitude of yours needs to stop immediately. Sorry, my attitude? The attitude of, please stop emotionally blackmailing me for petrol money? Don't play dumb, he continues, in that tone middle-aged men use when their DIY project has gone horribly wrong, but they're still pretending it's part of the plan. Your mother's been in bits for weeks. And Brandon told me what you said to him. Made him feel like rubbish, you did.
Oh,
You mean when I gently suggested he start budgeting like a grown-up instead of blowing his entire paycheck on neon truck decals and overpriced vape juice? Apparently, telling my 34-year-old brother to maybe stop being financially feral was the height of cruelty. And then came the main course. All you do is wave money around like it makes you better than us. But you've never contributed anything meaningful to this family. You cut grass for rich people. You think that makes you superior? If you had any self-respect, you'd stop acting like we owe you gratitude and just disappear.
ah,
There it is. The full, unfiltered, "You're successful and we hate you for it" monologue. And in that moment, standing in my kitchen, staring at a Christmas photo where everyone looks slightly constipated, something inside me just broke. Not dramatically. Not a smash the wine glass and scream sort of break. Just a quiet click. Like when you finally see the hidden picture in one of those Magic Eye posters, and it turns out it's just a big fat F asterisk asterisk you. Asterisk. So I took a deep breath and said, "You know what, Dad? You're absolutely right. I should disappear." And then I hung up. Didn't slam the phone. Didn't cry. Just stood there blinking. Then called Lucas. Me. It's happening. The nuclear option. We're doing it. Lucas. Without skipping a beat. Finally. I'll start drafting paperwork. This is going to be better than watching Arsenal lose on penalties. And like that, Operation Sod This for a Laugh began. That night, I spent 2 hours nuking every financial tie I had to the family.
Bank.
Accountant. Business manager. Boom, boom, boom.
Gone.
Every direct debit. Every standing order. Every temporary loan they'd never paid back. It was like uninstalling emotional malware. The ATM was now officially out of service. And then, oh, the bliss. I did the thing I'd been fantasizing about since that godforsaken Christmas toast. I booked a one-way ticket to New Zealand. 3 days later, I was gone. Didn't tell a soul. Left behind no forwarding address, just vibes and vengeance. Lucas was my only contact back home. I gave him full surveillance rights over the family WhatsApp chat and told him to keep me updated on the carnage. He was delighted. I'll document everything, he promised. This is going to be the greatest emotional implosion since Mum forgot to defrost the turkey in 2009. New Zealand was like therapy, but with better scenery and fewer people asking me for £1,500, just until next Tuesday. I rented a little cabin in Queenstown. Woke up to mountains instead of emotional guilt. Went hiking.
Fished.
Learned to paraglide. The kind of activities you only do when you're free from generational obligation and Sophie's skincare affiliate codes. For the first time in years, I woke up and didn't check my phone to see which relative had financially imploded overnight. Lucas, bless him, kept me posted. Daily updates, each one more glorious than the last. Week 1. Radio silence. Nobody noticed I was gone. Not one call. Not one "where are you?" Too self-absorbed to realize their human safety net had vanished. Week 2. Carnage begins. Sophie's car insurance lapsed. Car got impounded outside a nail salon. Bradley's truck payment bounced twice. Started getting threatening letters. Dad got his first notice about the mortgage being behind. Mum apparently tried to sell an old engagement ring to get ahead of it. It turned out to be cubic zirconia. Week 3. The panic set in. Sophie called me 23 times in one day. I didn't answer, obviously. But Lucas, my little goblin archivist, was still in the family group chat, screenshotting everything like it was a live episode of EastEnders. One of my favorites? Why is she doing this to us? We're her family?
Yes.
That age-old philosophy. Exploit, ignore, then panic when the gravy train derails. And honestly, I was in Queenstown, sipping wine, staring at a glacier, and smiling like a woman who had finally, understood that peace isn't a spa weekend. It's watching people who treated you like a resource realize you were the glue all along. And babe, I was done being glue. By week 4, it had officially become less mild family inconvenience and more biblical reckoning, but with less dignity and more overdrafts. Brandon got evicted from his flat, which is what happens when you think rent pays itself and your financial strategy is vibes and protein shakes. Sophie had to flog her camera gear just to buy groceries, which was awkward because she'd literally just posted a video titled "Manifesting Luxury with Me" while eating cereal from a mug. Mum and Dad? 3 months behind on bills they'd never worried about before. Because why would you, when your daughter is essentially a one-woman standing order in a ponytail? Meanwhile, the family group chat was an absolute masterpiece. If I could have framed it and hung it in the Tate Modern next to a urinal titled "Broken Dreams," I would have. Sophie. Has anyone actually spoken to Ellie? My car got impounded, and she's not answering. Brandon. She's probably having one of her tantrums. You know what she's like when she doesn't get enough attention. Right, because me saying no after a decade of being your human ATM is basically the same as chucking my toys out the pram in Tesco. Mum. I'm sure she'll come to her senses soon. She's just being emotional. Yes, Susan. How dare your eldest daughter have emotions after financially propping up your family like some sort of middle-class scaffolding?
Dad.
Nothing. Just vibes and ego. But week 5? That's when the passive aggression turned to actual desperation, and my God, it was beautiful. Mum. This isn't funny anymore. The bank called about foreclosure proceedings. Where is she? Brandon. Ellie, if you're reading this seriously, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Sophie, I'm about to lose my flat. Please just call me. I'm sorry for whatever we did. Ah yes, the vague apology. Classic move. Not, I'm sorry I leeched off you for years while mocking your boundaries, but just a vague something. Iconic. Dad? Still radio silence. Pride really is like a Greg sausage roll. Flaky, hard to swallow, and best served warm with a side of self-delusion. Meanwhile, my mate Leah, she's my Lucas in this version, was practically skipping through life, sending me daily updates. She lives for this kind of carnage. Your brother's sofa surfing. Your sister's moved back into the family house, and your dad tried to use your business account as collateral for a loan. The bank actually laughed at him. Like, out loud. It was glorious. And just when I thought it couldn't get better, they started begging other family members for help. Only plot twist. They'd been telling everyone I'd had a breakdown, as if I'd suddenly gone full feral and fled the country to join a commune or something. But my cousin Emily, absolute legend, longtime silent witness to this soap opera, shut the narrative down like a year 11 head teacher with a megaphone. She spilled everything. Every pound I'd forked over, every favor, every unpaid debt masked as help. She laid it all out like Exhibit A in a trial called The People vs. This unhinged family. Suddenly, Aunt Jean wasn't so keen to fork out her pension, and Uncle Alan canceled that GoFundMe before it even launched. While all this was unfolding, I was still in Queenstown, sat on a deck with a gin and tonic and a view of the mountains, living my best post-trauma but make it glam lifestyle. Update of the week. Brandon had to cancel his fancy gym membership and was now working out at the local community center. The kind where the aircon's broken, the lights flicker like a horror film, and the floor smells faintly of Lynx Africa and despair. This is the same man who used to post topless gym selfies captioned, "Rise,
Grind.
dominate." Now he's doing squats next to pensioners and calling it character building. Sophie's Instagram was unintentionally hilarious. One day she's posting about abundance mindset, and the next she's asking her followers, any tips for cheap meal prep on a budget? Her engagement dropped to single digits. Turns out, no one wants motivational quotes from someone eating spaghetti hoops in a tracksuit that says girl boss. And then there's Dad. Oh, Dad. The man who once lectured me about investments tried to sell his vintage baseball cards. He'd been bragging about them for years. Claimed they were worth 15 grand. Turns out they were knockoff reprints from one of those late-night teleshopping channels. The whole lot sold at a car boot sale for £230 and a sausage bap. Mom started cutting her own hair. Let that sink in. The woman who once told me roots are for the working class was now standing in front of a fogged-up bathroom mirror, scissors in one hand, a YouTube tutorial in the other, and a fringe that could only be described as traumatized. I, meanwhile, was doing yoga next to a glacier and sleeping better than I had in years. No guilt. No late-night sobbing voicemails. No surprise loan requests. 8 weeks in, I flew back to the UK. But not to them, obviously. I went straight to Leah's office. Operation Boundary Reinforcement was just getting started. She slid a fat folder across the desk with a grin that said, "You're gonna want popcorn." "Welcome back, you magnificent legend," she said, ready to see just how deep the bin fire goes. It was worse than I expected, which, considering this lot, is saying something. Brandon had lost his job for missing too many shifts while dealing with personal stress. Sophie's influencer career had flatlined harder than Dad's credit score. She'd sold off all her gear and moved back in with Mum and Dad, who were now 5 months behind on their mortgage and officially facing foreclosure. But Leah hadn't just been watching from the sidelines with popcorn. She'd been digging. Legally. You know that lake house your family's been using every summer for the last 8 years? The one I pay the taxes and maintenance on? That one. Well, I've got news. And it's going to be delicious. So, here's the absolute kicker. That lakeside property they've been treating like their own personal Love Island villa? Still legally mine. Every roof tile, every algae-ridden paving slab, every questionable stain on the hot tub cover. All mine. Turns out Granddad had left it to me specifically in his will. Something about me being the only grandchild who wasn't a self-involved prat with zero respect for mahogany furniture. Bless him. Meanwhile, my parents, bless them too, in the may your coffee always be cold way, had decided it was family property. As in, let's go up every weekend, throw parties, wreck the place, and then have the audacity to act confused when I get annoyed. Brandon used it like a frat house. Sophie used it like a backdrop for her sad little #sunset vibes influencer career. I once turned up, the person who actually owns the place, to do boring grown-up stuff like fix the dock and scrub algae out of the gutters, only to find empty lager tins bobbing around in the hot tub like they were auditioning for I'm a Celebrity. Been addition. And some bright spark, had actually carved their initials into Granddad's hand-built dining table. Made from real oak. Not IKEA flat-pack sadness. When I confronted Brandon, he literally shrugged and said, "Chill, it's not like you live here full-time."
Right.
Because I only pay the taxes and repairs and cry quietly over ruined heirlooms. But sure, why not treat me like a glorified groundskeeper?
Anyway,
that was the moment I realized I wasn't family. I was facilities management. Lucas, angel in human form with a lawyer's grin, was ready. Time for some new management policies, he said, smug as anything. The man was practically glowing. We drove up to the house that weekend, changed the locks, installed security cameras, and whacked up enough private property. No trespassing signs to make it look like a Channel 5 documentary about dodgy landlords. And then, we listed it as a luxury holiday rental. £3,500 a week during peak season. Full lake access. Hot tub. Rustic charm with modern amenities, aka, it smells like old wood and has decent Wi-Fi. But that was just Act 1 of this delicious, slow-roasted revenge roast. Act 2? Even juicier. You see, years ago, back when I still had a soul and trusted people, I co-signed for my parents' house because Dad's credit score was, well, let's just say if it were a GCSE, he wouldn't be invited back for resits. Which meant legally, my name was still on the mortgage. As in, I had the right to say, actually, since I've been funding this circus, maybe I'd like a bit of the tent. Lucas laid it out, calm as you like. We force a sale. Market value minus the mortgage. Your name's on the deed, so you're entitled to a chunk of the equity. Translation: I could legally evict my own family. And honestly, the joy that gave me, better than therapy. Cheaper, too. But wait, there's more. While I'd been crying into takeaways and questioning my life choices, Lucas had been building a case file. The sort of thing that gives prosecutors wet dreams. He had screenshots, bank statements, dodgy loan records, and texts that made the Manson family chat look wholesome. The piece de resistance? A group message from 2 years ago I'd totally forgotten about. Brandon had written, and I quote, "Lena's such a pushover. Watch this." Then asked me for £900 for some fake car emergency. An hour later, in the same thread, "Told you it'd work. Easiest money ever." Sophie responded with laughing emojis and, "Teach me your ways, master." Honestly, I nearly blacked out from secondhand embarrassment. Lucas took one look at that and said, "That's not just financial abuse. That's a documented conspiracy to defraud." I mean, I knew they were entitled. I just didn't realize they were criminally stupid. At that point, any guilt I might have had, the years of, but they're family, and they're struggling, and you're the responsible one, evaporated faster than Brandon's last employment contract. Lucas's final strategy was pure spiteful genius. We were going to document everything, every bank transfer, every sob story, every just till payday that never got paid. And then we were going to serve them consequences on a silver tray. Because if they were going to treat me like a wallet with legs, I might as well start charging rent. So, here's the delicious bit. Lucas, my contract lawyer turned personal avenging angel, knew exactly how to make everything legally ironclad. Like Fort Knox, but make it petty. "We'll give them one final opportunity to do the right thing," he said, sipping his tea like a man who's never trusted anyone in his life, and for good reason. A chance to acknowledge what they owe you, sign a formal agreement, and pretend to be responsible adults for once. And when they mess it up, we'll have every legal weapon we need to finish this circus permanently. The plan was elegant, painfully British, civilized vengeance with paperwork. I go home, a concept that now made me feel itchy, and pretend to be willing to help one last time. But only if they signed a proper contract. Lucas had drafted the thing to look friendly, you know. We're all in this together. Vibes. But buried inside were enough protection clauses to make MI5 jealous. If they missed even one payment, I could legally seize anything purchased with my money, co-signature, or emotional trauma. That included the lake house, which I already legally owned, but now I'd own it with flair. Dad's stupid boat that I co-signed for, despite never having been on it without wanting to fake a drowning. And Sophie's car, which was in my name for insurance reasons, aka I was the mug keeping her on the road, while she posted pouty selfies captioned, "Boss Babe Energy." Lucas was annoyingly calm about it. They're desperate, he said, like he was discussing a dodgy bin fire behind a pub. They'll agree to anything. And based on their track record, they'll mess up within a month. Spoiler, he was wrong. They didn't mess up in a month. They messed up in 2 weeks. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I rang Brandon. He picked up before the first ring even finished, like a dog hearing a sausage packet rustle. "Chloe, thank God. Where have you been? We've been so worried about you. Save it, Love Island." I cut him off with the emotional finesse of a guillotine. "I'll be at Mom and Dad's tonight at 7. Make sure everyone's there." "Wait, Chloe, please, I can expla." Click. Call ended. God, that felt good. We rocked up at 7 p.m. sharp. Lucas in his tailored suit, me in full emotionally dead inside mode. The house looked rougher than a Weatherspoons at closing time. Garden overgrown. Paint peeling. Dad's prized boat sat in the drive covered in repo notices like it had just been disqualified from life. Inside, the whole clan was gathered like I'd called a family tribunal. Mom, Dad, Brandon, and Sophie, all seated like the world's worst boy band reunion. Mom looked like she'd aged a decade. Dad tried to put on his stern face, but honestly, he looked more like a man on the verge of crying over a broken kettle. Brandon looked like he'd been sleeping in his jeans for a week, and Sophie, oh bless her, full tears. Mascara like a horror film. I nearly clapped. I sat across from them, Lucas beside me setting up his laptop like he was about to pitch them a hostile takeover. Which, in a way, he was. "Right," I said. "Let's have an honest conversation." The next 90 minutes were the most exquisite thing I've ever witnessed. I should have sold tickets. They tripped over each other with apologies, excuses, emotional blackmail, and occasional bursts of faux humility. Dad tried to claim he'd never said those things on the phone, that I just misunderstood the tone. Yeah, sure. Maybe next time scream your insults in a different tone so I'll be less traumatized. Lucas sat there cool as a cucumber in a fridge. Occasionally, he'd ask clarifying questions like he was interviewing them for a Netflix docuseries about fraud. "So, Brandon, just confirming, you did spend the rent money Chloe gave you on truck accessories?" And Sophie, instead of buying inventory for your business, you went on holiday to Florida? Mom gasped. "You said it was for networking." "Oh, I networked," Sophie sniffled. "I met loads of people." "In a bikini," I muttered. "Brilliant for business." And then, the cherry on top, they signed the contract. All of them. Didn't even read it properly, just skimmed it like terms and conditions on a phone update. I was now legally owed £186,000 in documented loans, plus interest. They had 12 months to repay it in monthly installments of £6,500, or I could claim the assets. Mum hugged me for the first time in years and said, "Thank you for giving us another chance. We know we made mistakes, but family is family, right?" "Absolutely," I smiled sweetly. "Family is family." Lucas and I left, and he looked like a man who'd just won a pub quiz and a divorce settlement on the same night. 12 months, he said. "I'll bet you dinner they missed the first payment." He was wrong. They missed it by 2 weeks. Missed payment notice. Went out on Wednesday. By Friday, I legally owned the lake house, Dad's precious boat, Sophie's tragic little car, Lucas filed the paperwork faster than a Love Island contestant finds a camera. Their heads were still spinning when the locks changed. And the timing? Impeccable. It was bank holiday weekend. The lake house was fully booked with tourists for £1,500 a week, all summer long. Brandon had apparently planned his annual lads trip that weekend. Instead, he got to spend it sulking in his flat, explaining to his mates that Mummy's cottage is now an Airbnb. The boat sold at auction within a week for £28,000. Apparently, a real fisherman bought it. The kind who actually uses a fish finder for fish, not for pretending to be someone with a functioning personality. The car?
Gone.
Sold to a dealer. Another £15,000. I was officially making a profit off their inability to act like functioning humans. Somewhere in the universe, karma was doing a very smug little dance. And then came the phone calls. Oh, the calls. Brandon rang first. Predictable as soggy toast. Chloe, come on. This is mental. It was just one missed payment. We'll have the money next week, I swear. Sure, Brandon. With what? Your imaginary job? The overdraft you maxed out buying LED cup holders for your truck. Then Sophie rang. You can't take my car. How am I meant to get to work? Public transport, babes. Like the rest of us peasants. Maybe try bus? You might meet a new man with a real job.
Click.
And the best part? I didn't feel bad. Not even a little bit. Because this wasn't revenge. It was enlightenment, powered by legally binding documentation and years of emotional repression. And honestly, it felt bloody fantastic.
So,
Dad finally decided to grow a spine and contribute something other than financial disappointment to the family legacy. His words? This is theft. You can't steal our property. I nearly applauded. Not because of the boldness. Oh no. But because I hadn't heard him string a sentence together without blaming immigrants or the weather since 2016. Read the contract, darling, I said as Lucas, aka my knight in pinstripe armor, helpfully highlighted clause 14 in neon yellow. The man had drafted it so tight, not even divine intervention could have wriggled them out. But the piece de resistance? Mum phoning me, voice wobbling like a cheap jelly on a paper plate. Pippa, please. We're your family. How could you do this to the people who raised you? We loved you. We supported you. We gave you everything you needed to succeed. Sorry, everything? They once gave me lice and a lifelong sense of impending doom. I suppose that counts? You gave me nothing, I said ice cold. But I gave you everything. My money. My time. My respect. And you lot flushed it down the loo because you thought I was too soft to fight back. Cue dramatic sobbing, award-worthy. We're going to lose the house. Your own parents, homeless. I resisted the urge to laugh. You should have thought of that before you told me I was worthless and should disappear.
Oops.
Anyway, the foreclosure went through like clockwork.
Boom. Bang. Bye.
They had to sell off. Well, everything really. The furniture, including that hideous velvet armchair Mum swore was antique. It wasn't. Electronics. Farewell to Dad's beloved 60-inch telly he needed for the footy. Mum's jewelry, half of it fake. By the way, poetic. Dad's tools, which he hadn't used since 2003 unless you count shouting at them from the shed. All flogged to cover the mountain of debt they racked up while living like lottery winners on my direct debits. The house went. The cars. The delusions. They ended up in some grotty little flat in Croydon. 2 beds, no garden, neighbors who thought volume control was a government conspiracy. Brandon moved in too, because apparently being 35 and unemployed is still just a rough patch. 3 fully grown adults crammed into a place smaller than my old uni flat. No savings. No safety net. No daughter-shaped ATM to keep the lights on. Shame, really. Mum, who once complained when the pool at her country club had too many screaming children, now lived next to a bloke who grilled sausages on his balcony and changed motorbike oil in the communal hallway. Brandon, who used to host lads' nights in a 4-bed detached, was now crashing on a lumpy sofa bed with springs that jabbed him like karma. His dating life?
Dead.
Apparently women aren't into blokes who live with their mum and can't offer a private toilet. Sophie, our self-declared hashtag girl boss, tried to revive her luxury candle empire without stock, funding, or a clue. Ended up in a call center in a retail park, wearing a headset and saying, "Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in for £9 and 62 pence an hour?" Her influencer career tanked faster than a politician's approval rating. Last I checked, she dropped below 200 followers. Even her bot accounts had abandoned ship. Dad? Well, Captain Financial Genius took early retirement, by which I mean stress and shame pushed him out before HR could. His expert advice didn't count for much after a repossession and 3 bounce checks. And me? Oh love, I thrived. Used the cash from the lake house, boat, and Sophie's sad little Peugeot to expand my business. New vans, more crew, a shiny HQ with actual glass doors. Landed a fat landscaping contract for a corporate park that paid more in 1 month than Mum and Dad made in 3 years. Also treated myself to a holiday home in the Lake District. Paid in full. No co-signers. No family guilt trips. No risk of Sophie turning it into her next wellness retreat. Lucas and I celebrated with a fishing trip to Scotland. Luxury lodge. Spa treatments. 5-star food. I caught a salmon bigger than Brandon's ego. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. You know what the best part is? Lucas said on the flight home, sipping champagne like a smug divorcee. They did it to themselves. 6 months after the dust settled, Sophie texted. 2 sentences. That's it. I understand now what we put you through. I know you'll probably never forgive us, but I'm truly sorry. I read it.
Twice.
Screenshot it to Lucas. Deleted it. Then came Brandon. Turned up at my office like a Poundland ghost of Christmas past. My assistant said, "Do you want me to call security?" And I honestly hesitated. But curiosity's a cow, isn't it? He looked rough. Not bit tired rough, I mean just crawled out of a skip and regrets every decision since 2011 rough. Pale, sunken cheeks, wearing a uniform with Terry on the chest. That wasn't his name, by the way. I was wrong, he started, as if that was news. We all were. I treated you like garbage. You were the only one holding our family together. I said nothing, just stared at him like he was a weird sock I found in the washing machine. I get it if you hate us, but I just want my sister back. I blinked.
Once.
Brandon, I gave every single one of you so many chances to be decent. You all chose not to. Over. And over. And over again. I know, but there's no but. You made your bed. Now you're sleeping in it, on a couch, next to Dad's blood pressure monitor and Mum's passive aggression. He lingered, like he was waiting for some Disney ending. Spoiler, not happening. He left. I went back to finalizing plans for a £3.2 million commercial build with a rooftop garden and an artificial lake. Funny. That's the kind of thing they might have been proud of. If they'd ever cared about me more than they cared about my money. But hey, family's family, right? Just make sure you get it in writing. So here we are. 3 years on from the great family meltdown, and I'm currently sat in my custom-built home office, because apparently, vindication does come with underfloor heating and an espresso machine that cost more than my mum's wedding dress. 5 bedrooms. 3 acres. A bloody great workshop out back where I tinker with equipment, which is posh person code for escape when people start emotionally oversharing. Everything paid in cash. No co-signers. No groveling. No, but darling, it's your family, from estate agents with tragic haircuts. My business? Oh, just a humble little empire. 47 employees across 3 counties. Counties, mind you, not states. We handle everything from shopping centers in Milton Keynes to posh hotels in the Cotswolds with throw pillows that cost more than my car insurance. Last year we brought in £2.1 million. Forecast says 30% growth, but I prefer to say steady incline toward world domination. Oh, and that Colorado holiday home? Swapped that for a lodge in the Lake District. Less guns, more sheep. These days I spend my free time hiking, reading, not explaining basic finances to grown adults, and skiing with people who don't see me as a human cash machine in Spanx. Lucas is still my best mate, and now officially my business solicitor, because nothing says redemption arc like the man who once watched your family gaslight you into oblivion, now helping you build a property portfolio that would make Kirsty Alsop weep. We're expanding into commercial development. Apparently, when your contracts are airtight and your lawyer doesn't secretly hate you, business is shockingly stress-free. Who knew? As for the fam?
Well,
Word on the street, and by street I mean mutual friends who love drama but pretend they don't, is that they've stabilized. Still in that pokey flat somewhere near Croydon where the bins go missing and the walls smell like despair. But hey, they're paying their bills without siphoning funds from my bank account, so let's pop a Prosecco for personal growth. Brandon got promoted to shift supervisor, which basically means he yells at 19-year-olds about freezer temperatures and thinks it makes him a leader. Sophie finally stopped pretending her pyramid scheme was a wellness brand and landed a real job doing social media for a carpet warehouse. Iconic. Mom and Dad are surviving on his pension and her part-time job at a garden center. She's gone from talking down to waitresses to telling pensioners where the begonias are. Honestly, I'd pay to see it. And do I feel bad? Not even slightly. I gave them years of support, bankrolled their bills, covered their chaos, let them insult me over dinner I bloody paid for. And when I finally drew a boundary, they acted like I'd burned down Buckingham Palace. Every penny I took back? Legal.
documented.
Justified. I didn't steal anything. I collected debts they agreed to in writing, like adults who should have read the fine print instead of assuming my generosity came with no terms and conditions. But anyway, last month I got engaged.
Yeah, me.
Engaged. To a woman who owns her own graphic design business, drinks oat milk without being annoying about it, and has never once asked me for a single penny. Which was honestly disorienting at first, like, what do you mean you don't need me to sort your credit card bill? We're planning a small wedding in the Lake District this autumn. 15 guests, all people who actually like us for reasons unrelated to our net worth. No one from my family's invited, obviously. I may be dramatic, but I'm not stupid. And look, I've learned something massive. Family isn't about DNA. It's not about who changed your nappies or who showed up to your GCSE drama performance. It's about respect,
Care.
effort, being there without needing a check or a sob story. To anyone in a similar situation, here's my advice. Stop setting yourself on fire to keep people warm who wouldn't even offer you a blanket. You don't owe anyone a lifestyle they can't afford just because you share a surname and unfortunate teeth. Set your boundaries. Protect your peace. Demand. Basic. Respect. And if people can't manage that, let them figure it out. You've got better things to do, like hiking up a mountain with someone who loves you, instead of begging your brother to pay back the £600 he borrowed to invest in crypto farming or whatever nonsense he was spouting in 2021. Life gets exponentially better when you stop being everyone else's safety net and start being your own bloody parachute. And trust me, the view from up here? Spectacular.